point, we're ready to progress to a standing position. So this is probably one of the positions you're most familiar with. You'll see it most, a lot of times because maybe somebody you're working with or you yourself are not sure how to regress the exercise or make it a little easier, or to progress it and make it a little harder, so to adjust it. So again, that's what this progression series is for, is to be able to regress it and progress it accordingly depending on where you're at. So, main points of this hip hinge. First and foremost, we want the hips to dominate the movement. What I mean by that is, when we're hinging at the hips, we're getting a flex, right? So our butt is going back behind us, right? We don't want the knees doing a bunch. We do want a little bit of a bend in the knees. If you're somebody who's first doing this, I'd recommend to try and keep the knees out of it as much as possible, meaning if you have to start with the knees a lot stiffer or extended and then go down from there, we don't want you to stay there, but sometimes that's good to make sure that you're not utilizing the knees. But again, the key here is we want the hips to dominate the movement. So when we watch Nick right here, what we'll notice is we just want butt moving back. His hips are dominating that movement, knees bending slightly, just a little bit. And to do a proper hip hinge, you do need some knee bend. But if you're just beginning it, I recommend to really try and just hinge at the hips, or just flex or bend at the hips, okay? The second piece is we want our weight shifting that way. So it's a posterior weight shift. So what I mean by that is we're gonna start to feel through our feet the weight coming through here and back. So the pressure is going to be felt through that position, which will then allow us to just use the hips as opposed to other joints down the chain. The third piece is we want to be able to maintain a nice, as he pushes back right there with his hips and he hinges, we want to keep a nice straight line right there, or posture in the low back. We don't want to be rounding out. We don't want to be overextending. We want to keep that nice and flat and nice and stable. The last piece I would say is, as we get to the bottom of it, we want to make sure that if we have to adjust the pelvis accordingly, we're able to do that in order to either flatten the back out more, or to maybe give it a little bit more of a, typically most people don't need to add any sort of round to it, but to be able to adjust it so the back doesn't hurt and so we have proper form. And so from there, really those are the main keys. We just want to make sure that we can form that hip hinge correctly. I'll show you a couple of quick feedback techniques that are going to really help to maximize a proper hip hinge. So give that a try.